Four goals, a backline that completed a perfect passing record, and a stadium in Los Angeles that has not stopped roaring since the seventh minute. The United States didn't merely win their World Cup winner, they planted a flag in the middle of this tournament and dared everyone else to come and take it. But the highlight reel is hiding something from you. This 4-1 was not a story of individuals having a good day. It was an ambush drawn up on a whiteboard long before kickoff by Mauricio Pochettino and carried out for an hour, almost to the letter. So today we take that whiteboard apart. Why did a back three short circuit Paraguay's plan? How did Christian Pulisic become impossible to pick up? And what on earth does a manager do when his entire game model is in ruins inside 7 minutes? Welcome back to the Tactics Room here on European Footballer Adda, the corner of the internet where we don't just watch the match, we decode it. If the shape of a midfield three is your idea of a good time, then do me one small favor before we dive in. Tap that subscribe button because we are going deep on every single match day of this World Cup. Team sheets are up. Let's read the game. Start with the home side because everything that followed flowed from that one bold decision. Pochettino did not line his team up in a flat back four. He built from a back three. Tim Ream as the left-sided organizer and captain, Chris Richards in the middle, and Alex Freeman tucking in on the right. Ahead of them, the two fullbacks were unleashed as wingbacks. Serginho Dest flying down the right and Anthony Robinson hugging the left touchline. Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie formed the engine room, and then came the clever part. Malik Tillman and Christian Pulisic playing as free, roaming tens of a single striker, Folarin Balogun. That shape is a 3-4-2-1, and its whole purpose is geometry. By keeping three at the back, Pochettino always had a spearman to start the build. By pushing both wingbacks high, he stretched the pitch to its absolute limits. And by asking Tillman and Pulisic to live in the high half spaces, those vertical lanes between the opposition fullback and centre back, he created a permanent overload in the exact zones Paraguay wanted to protect. Chris Richards, by the way, would go on to complete all 83 of his passes, a flawless 100%. And that number is the quiet heartbeat of this entire performance. Paraguay under Gustavo Alfaro came with a plan that has served underdogs for decades. A compact 4-2-3-1, two holding midfielders, Andre Cubas and Matthias Villasanti, screened the center. The block stayed narrow, the lines stayed tight, and the instruction was simple. Deny the space between the lines, stay patient, and when the ball is won, get it forward in a flash to Miguel Almiron, Julio Enciso, and the runners. On paper, it's disciplined. The problem is, a disciplined block only works if it never gets pulled out of shape. And Pochettino's design was built specifically to pull it out of shape. Now, for the half of Pochettino's plan that earns fewer headlines. What the United States did without the ball. Out of position, that front line didn't admire, it hunted. Balogun pressed the centre backs. Tillman and Pulisic bent their runs to choke the passing lanes into Paraguay's pivot. And the wingbacks jumped onto Paraguay's fullbacks the instant they received. The aim was to force Paraguay long before they were ready, turning Alfaro's patient outlet into a hopeful punt. Tyler Adams was the insurance behind it all, the lone screener mopping up anything that slipped through. Win it high, and Balogun is already 8 yards from goal. They didn't have to wait long. 7 minutes in, the blueprint produced its first goal. And it's a beautiful illustration of the whole idea. Watch where Pulisic receives it. He drifts into that pocket just in front of Paraguay's two holders, the exact zone the block is supposed to guard. The moment one of Paraguay's midfielders steps towards him, a passing lane cracks open and Pulisic threads it straight through the heart of the defense. Weston McKennie leads the run perfectly, attacks the right channel and slides a low ball back across the 6-yard box. Damian Bobadilla of Paraguay, stretching desperately to cut it out, can only turn it into his own net. On the score sheet, it reads own goal, but tactically it's a US goal in every sense. Manufactured by dragging a marker out of position and punishing the gap behind him. The early dagger and the crowd erupts. The first goal came through the middle, the second came down the flank, and it was the wing-back experiment paying off. On 31 minutes, the United States doubled their lead. Now here's the mechanism. With Dest occupying the touchline, Paraguay's left back was pinned, unsure whether to track the wing-back or step to the ball. That hesitation gave Pulisic a 1-against-1 he was always going to win. He drifts outside, gets to the byline and clips it back to the penalty spot. And Balogun, who had cleverly drifted off Gustavo Gomez's shoulder, arrives to sweep it home first time. 2-0, and just before the interval, Balogun completed his brace with an almost identical sense of timing, ghosting between the centre-backs to make it 3-0. At the break with 3-0, the score, and Paraguay's compact block being picked apart in every zone through the middle, down the wing and across the face of the goal, it was complete and utter domination by the US strategy. And give Folarin Balogun his due because both goals, the second and third, sprang from the same craft. He is not a striker who stands and waits. He lives on the last shoulder, drifting from the centre-back's eye line into his blind side. For the second, he peeled off Gustavo Gomez. For the third, he split the pair entirely. That movement is what turns a good delivery into a simple finish, and it drags defenders apart, which is exactly why those pockets kept opening for Tillman and Pulisic. A mobile number 9 is the grease in the whole machine. Now let's put some numbers to the dominance because they are staggering. The United States finished with 63% of the ball and a 91% passing accuracy. This was not a smash and grab, it was suffocation. Look at the network. The back three and Tyler Adams form a calm, patient base. That's where Richards' perfectly 83 from 83 lives. They circulate, they wait, and the instant Paraguay's block shifts a fraction too far one way, the ball snaps into McKennie or Pulisic, the release valves. And from there, it's into Balogun or out to the wingbacks. Paraguay, by contrast, barely got to build at all. Starved of possession, their pattern became long and direct. Win it, launch it, and hope Almiron or Enciso could run into it. It's a perfectly understandable survival mechanism, but it also meant Paraguay's defenders spent 90 minutes chasing shadows. And it was never possession for its own sake. Watch how the United States worked the ball along one flank, dragged Paraguay's block across, then switched the point of attack with a long diagonal to the opposite wingback arriving free. That side-to-side manipulation forces a compact defense to run, and a running defense is a disorganized one. Every slide across cracked open a half space on the far side. Patient, then sudden. That is the rhythm of a team that knows precisely what it is doing. Spare a thought too for the midfield duel because that is where this was settled. Adams and McKennie outran and outfought Cubas and Villasanti for the full 90 minutes. Adams's positional discipline meant Paraguay could never break cleanly through the center, while McKinney's late surges handed the United States a constant extra runner in the box. Win the middle of the park and everything downstream gets easier. The flanks open up, the striker gets fed, and the opponent's outlets wither. 3-0 up at half time, and now the tactical conversation changes from attack to management. Pochettino made a telling call. He took Christian Pulisic off at the break and brought on Sebastian Berhalter. With a comfortable lead and a long, brutal tournament ahead, you protect your most important attacker. It's the decision a coach thinking about July, but not tonight. And it's exactly why depth matters at a World Cup. But every substitution has a cost. With Pulisic gone and the score saved, the United States naturally dropped their intensity, and that handed Paraguay a door. Alfaro, to his credit, threw caution out the window. More attackers, a higher line, a more aggressive direct approach. And on 73 minutes, it bore fruit. A long clearance from goalkeeper Orlando Gill was flicked on. The United States backline was caught napping in transition for the first time all night. Enciso pounced on the loose ball and squared it, and Mauricio turned it home first time. 3-1. The lesson is written in neon. This American side has only one obvious soft spot. The moment it relaxes and the game becomes a transition shootout, that high aggressive line can be got at. With Berhalter on for Pulisic, the shape shifted as well. The United States became more orthodox, closer to a back four in settled phases. Dest a touch more conservative, trading some of first half thrust for control and fresh legs. At 3-0, that is a sensible bargain. The catch, as we saw, is that you remove the one-man Paraguay simply could not track, and the team's center of gravity sinks. Protect the lead by all means, but the gap between being in control and inviting pressure is razor thin. And for a quarter of an hour, the hosts dabbled on the wrong side of it. The momentum wave tells the whole story at a glance. 3 towering blue strikes in the first half, 7, 31, 45, each one a goal, each one the blueprint working. Then notice the dip between roughly the 60th and 75th minute. That is when the United States takes their foot off the gas, and it's the only stretch where Paraguay climbs above the line and gets their goal. And then right at the date, the wave swings violently back to the United States for one final flourish. That flourish had a name, Gio Reyna. Deep into stoppage time, fresh off the bench and hungry to make a statement of his own, Reyna picked the ball up in space, took a touch, and absolutely leathered it into the top corner from distance. 4-1. It was more than a pretty goal. It was a message that this squad's depth. When your substitutions are bending in screamers in the 98th minute, the rest of the group should be worried. For the United States, this was their most emphatic World Cup statement in a generation. Zoom out and the bigger picture is glowing for the hosts. A 4-goal opening margin does more than bank 3 points. It builds a goal difference cushion that can decide who tops the group and who earns the kinder knockout route. And it plants a psychological flag on home soil. The United States have served notice that on their day, in this structure, they can wound anybody left in this tournament. What actually went right? What should keep each manager up at night? Mauricio Pochettino, what worked was that the back three guaranteed a free man in the build-up and dismantled Paraguay's press. Also, the half-space overload from Tillman and Pulisic created goals through the middle and the channels. What misfired was that the intensity drop after the break invited Paraguay back in and gifted them a goal. The high line was briefly exposed in transition, the one repeatable weakness opponents will study. A tighter game stayed for 15 minutes would have meant a clean sheet to go with the rout. Now let's look at Gustavo Alfaro of Paraguay. For him, what worked was that the second half switch to an aggressive, direct, higher pressing approach earned a goal and a foothold. Enciso and Almiron remained genuine outlets whenever Paraguay could win the ball cleanly. What misfired was that the mid-block was too passive early and got split by one through ball inside 7 minutes. Holding midfielders were repeatedly dragged out of the screen, opening the pockets Pulisic feasted on. The braver plan arrived 60 minutes too late. By then, the game was already gone. So Pochettino outthought his counterpart from the first whistle, and only a deliberate easing off blemished an otherwise ruthless tactical performance. Alfaro's judgment showed the right idea, but a World Cup punishes managers who wait until 3-0 to find courage. So over to you now. Was this the most complete USA performance you have ever seen? Or did that 15-minute lull reveal a crack that better teams will exploit? Drop your verdict in the comments. I'll read everyone and the best tactical takes will get pinned. If you learned something today, that like button is the single biggest help you can give this channel. And if you're new here, subscribe and ring the bell, because next time in the tactics room, we are walking into a heavyweight collision. Brazil versus Morocco, where one of the great managers got a genuine fright. Until then, keep reading the game. This has been European Footballer Adda.